Wow. So that escalated quickly. Man, we're now on our what, third or fourth attempt on Trump's life by someone who seems, based on what's publicly available, to be a left wing person, or at least has some left wing ideology. So we'll see how it plays out. He was captured alive. Um, so I think there'll be more to answer there. But what I really wanted to get into was kind of this narrative that this is a both sides thing, right? I was just watching CNN. I think Dana Bash was talking about this is a both sides thing. Well, that may have been the case prior to Trump, but post Trump, there seems to be significant escalation from those identifying as a left. And they could be liberals, they could be progressives, whatever you want to put on them. But at any rate, they seem to be, there seems to be a significant increase in those on the left. But I didn't want to, not acknowledge that there have been, attempts on previous presidents. I would say, we all know about Reagan. But I, wanted to look into, okay, well, how many were there for Clinton, and how many were there for Obama, and how many were there for Biden, that were actual credible threats where someone made a physical attempt on the president's life, right? So under Clinton, there were two. September 12th, 1994, Frank Eugene Corder um, stole a Cessna 150 and deliberately crashed it into the White House South Lawn. Apparently, he was aiming for the building, but did not hit it. He was killed on impact. Clinton was not in the White House. He was staying elsewhere, I think in Blair House. Motive unclear, possibly seeking publicity rather than any kind of political statement. October 29th, 1994, Francisco Martin Duran fired 29 shots from a semi-automatic rifle at the White House from Pennsylvania Avenue, mistaking a tourist for Clinton. Bystanders tackled him. Secret Service arrested him on the spot. Convicted of attempted assassination, sentenced to 40 years. He had anti-government motives with some conservative media influences, but primarily delusional insanity defense involving aliens. Um, there's Barack Obama, November 11th, 2011. Oscar Ramiro Ortega Hernandez fired multiple shots with at least 7 hits from a semi-automatic rifle at the White House from Constitution Ave. Obama was not president. Arrested days later in Pennsylvania after a manhunt, convicted and sentenced to 25 years. Believed Obama was the Antichrist, delusional and religious motives. Then there was Biden. I'm not even going to try to pronounce this guy's last name. Sai Varshith Kandula rented a U-Haul truck, drove it into the White House security barriers at Lafayette Square, rammed multiple times, unfurled a Nazi flag, arrested on site by Secret Service, stated intent to kill the president if needed, seize power, and install a Nazi-style dictatorship. He was sentenced to 8 years. He did have explicit far-right ideology, although given what's happened with the SPLC, that would be very interesting to see if there's a connection there. But at any rate, it was determined that he had right-leaning ideology. But it's been clear with all three of these attempts on Trump's life that these folks were explicitly left-leaning. But, just in regard to kind of this escalation in left-wing violence that is oddly accepted, if not just ignored by the left, as if it's not happening, um, is obvious to most of us. I don't think you have to be a right leaning person to see that. I mean, we had the I mean, it all started really under Trump's first inauguration. Um, there was Antifa rioting and burning vehicles around the corner, I believe, on K Street. Nobody really talks about that. There was rioting outside of the White House. The only way that it was covered was in the reverse when Trump went over to the church that the left wing protesters tried to burn down to show in a sign of strength to go over to the church. They shot tear gas into the crowd there to clear the way so that the president could walk across the street because there were left wing protesters outside of the White House. He had to be, I think it was the day before that, he had to be rushed into the bunker because there was a threat of people, of left wing rioters coming into the White House. I mean, like, people like memory hold this stuff like it didn't happen, but it did. They called him Bunker Boy. I mean, this is like a real thing. There was the attempted assassination of a Supreme Court justice over the Dobbs decision after left wing protesters were outside of right wing justices' houses protesting illegally, I might add. There was the riots of 2020. We call it the Summer of Love with the mostly peaceful protesters. I lived in New York City. They weren't peaceful. We were under a curfew for a week and a half because of protesters in the city. We couldn't go out after 8. Basically, downtown was a free for all for Antifa and leftist protesters to just vandalize at will. They were assaulting police officers. There's a great video of a police officer on the, I believe, Williamsburg Bridge getting hit in the head by a 2x4 from a protester, splitting his head open. And he was a ranking police officer, so he's wearing white, so the blood on his clothing is pretty obvious. I mean, like, it's like people just don't think that this stuff happened, and it happened for months on end. Before that, it was like it was kicked off by BLM, which was ridiculous in itself. You had an entire summer where ICE facilities were getting shot at with fireworks, and people were actually shooting guns at some ICE facilities. I believe one in Georgia. There was the other one that had months long. It was either in Oregon or Washington State. I think it was Seattle. Then you also had the courthouses over there as well getting vandalized and set on fire every night by left wing protesters. But then the news would show up during the day and act like, oh, everybody's peaceful and everybody's having a great time. And then as soon as the sun sets, the black clad Antifa protesters come out wearing gas masks and riot gear, trying to set the place on fire. I mean, they had to leave a police station, and they created an autonomous zone where Antifa and left wing agitators took over an entire area. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. It's so ridiculous, and yet we're still here. Oh, it's both sides. Then we have the rollout of Doge, right, in Trump's second term, and then you have like people going and setting Tesla dealerships and cars on fire, right? Which I find hysterical. Most of the people, or a large majority of people that own Teslas, are left leaning, so they had to put stickers on their car, which you can still see to this day in very blue areas, and one of which I live now, that says, I bought this car before Elon went crazy, or they're putting things on there to kind of signal to other people like, hey, I'm on your side. Don't burn my car down. Don't set my house on fire because I own a Tesla. Like, it's like people don't even realize, like, it's just they're like ignoring that this stuff is happening. And then when you try to bring it up, people will say, oh, I'm like, well, when was the last time there was won a big right-wing protest that was violent. And people are like, oh, January 6th, January 6th. Okay, fine. You got one. You got one. One. And like we have to listen to this both sides crap all the time. I mean, like, it's just absolutely absurd. Absolutely absurd for anybody to be making the both sides argument at this current time. Over the last, you could say 10 years at this point plus, the basic sense, like Trump came down the escalator. From that point forward, it's been nothing but left-wing violence. Again, if you factor out January 6th, which, a lot of people have a lot of questions on. But like I'm just kind of like, I'm over it. I'm absolutely over it. I can't take any of these people seriously. And now you have people online saying that last night's attempt on Trump's life was staged. Okay. Yeah, it was staged. Absolutely. Are you freaking kidding me? I mean, like, I I can't with the conspiracy theorists on the left that are just trying to whitewash this stuff. I also find it hysterical that most of the media and news press that was there, well, most of the media news press is more left leaning for sure, and they were all there, so they all had to experience it. And now they're on TV, trying to say both sides. Like, they're having to actually acknowledge that this stuff is real and it's happening specifically to right leaning individuals, but they're going to fall back and say, oh, but we need to lower the temperature, both sides this, both sides that. Are you kidding me? I can't with any of that. It's just it's absolutely so ridiculous at this point. I mean, like, how many more times or examples are we going to need of explicit left-wing violence? Charlie Kirk. How many more are we going to need, are going to have to be shown before, like, people on the left go, oh yeah, well, I think we do have a problem. Like, we should really do something about this. Like, I don't think it's good that the president almost got killed. I don't think it's good. I mean, I think we just need to, cooler heads need to prevail. I can't. I can't. But at any rate, I just, I wanted to get on and talk about that just because I find it ridiculous, that there are just these people that are out there pushing this both sides narrative at this point. It's not both sides. It's clear it's the left. But at any rate, like, share, keep believing, the best for America is still ahead. Peace out.